Turkey has become a key mediator in the Russia-Ukraine war. It's done this by walking a delicate tightrope between its role as a NATO member, arming and supporting Ukraine, and as a strategic friend to Russia, who it's trying very hard not to make an enemy of. Why? Because for Turkey, there's a lot at stake.
Peace talks between delegations from Ukraine and Russia are underway in Turkey.
Is Erdogan wary of Putin in any way?
It's their ultimate frenemies, as you call it. It's the ultimate marriage of convenience.
Weeks before Russia and Ukraine agreed on Istanbul as a site for the March peace talks, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan made Turkey's position clear.
Ukrayna'nın sahipsiz bırakılması gibi Rus halkına, Rus edebiyatına, öğrencilerine, sanatçılarına yönelik cadı avını andıran uygulamaları da kabul etmiyoruz.
The war in Ukraine has forced some hard choices on Turkey. From the outset, Ankara's balancing act between Russia and Ukraine seemed risky, with Turkey selling armed drones to Ukraine while trying to preserve an uneasy partnership with Putin. While the United States and European Union enforced heavy financial and trade sanctions on Moscow, Turkey held back, saying they were counterproductive. Fleeing the sanctions, thousands of Russians went to Turkey, seeing it as a safe place to stay, invest, and hold assets. Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu went as far as inviting Russian oligarchs to come to Turkey.
So if you knew that whether these oligarchs can do any business in Turkey, then of course if it is legal and if it is not against international law, I will consider. If it is against international law, then that's another story.
So why has Turkey not taken sides? A big reason is its geographic role in the region as a maritime neighbor to both Russia and Ukraine. This is because it controls access from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, which is only possible through the Bosphorus Strait in Istanbul or the Dardanelles Strait in Turkey's northwest. The Montreux Convention, signed in 1936, ensures Turkey would not deny access to its neighbors except in times of military provocation. And despite repeated calls from Ukraine for Erdogan to do this now, he has so far refused, though he is increasingly wary of Russia's expansion in the Black Sea.
This is about regional security, again, as I mentioned. So for Turkey to have Russia not only stepping up its military presence on land and on sea, but also becoming a new kind of a Russian empire or resurrection of the Soviet Union would be something that would present a major security threat for Turkey itself. Because historically, Turkey and Russia have been rivals until recently. What these two countries used to name their relationship was kind of a conflictual cooperation or compartmentalization of ties, cooperating on some issues while disagreeing on the other issues.
This rivalry traces back centuries, when both were expansionist empires, culminating in a series of wars, the most significant of which happened between 1877 and 1878. But today, Turkey and Russia have learned to compartmentalize their differences. This can be seen in several regional conflicts, like the Syrian war, where the two countries were clearly on opposite sides, but were still engaging in arms trade with each other. When Turkey purchased and deployed Russian S-400 air defense systems, it put its defense relationship with the United States in jeopardy. In fact, the Foreign Policy Research Institute describes it as the most important bilateral relations in Eurasia today, due to the volume of trade and economic cooperation between the two countries, as well as their strategic partnership in regional security issues. Like Russia, Erdogan continues to resist what he says is Western meddling in Turkey's internal affairs. A key point of tension is Turkey's failed bid to join the European Union.
Şu anda Ukrayna'yı Avrupa Birliği'ne alma gayretlerini de doğrusu takdirle karşılıyoruz. Bu güzel bir gelişme. Ama bu Avrupa Birliği üyelerine de ben diyorum ki acaba Türkiye'yi niçin Avrupa Birliği'ne hala almakta endişe ediyorsunuz, tereddüt ediyorsunuz veya almıyorsunuz?
At the same time, Turkey has been selling its own arms to Ukraine. In 2019, Ukraine began receiving shipments of the Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 combat drones and has been using their high-powered cameras to view the battlefield and laser-correct artillery strikes. And since the Russian invasion began, the Turkish-made drones have played a key role in bolstering Ukraine's counter-offensives. In fact, Ukrainian troops have been singing about them. The drones have a proven track record of success against several adversaries in conflicts in Libya, Syria, and Nagorno-Karabakh. The drone's manufacturer is Baykar Defense, owned by the Bayraktar family. Its chief technology officer, Selçuk Bayraktar, is Erdogan's son-in-law. There's one more reason Turkey is so invested in its Russia-Ukraine relationships: its economy. Nearly 80% of Turkey's grain imports come from the two countries. When the war began, this was severely threatened, as were its exports to both countries, which dropped by over 50% in March alone. Turkey's other key sector, tourism, also took a hit, with tourists from Russia and Ukraine accounting for around 4% of the country's GDP. The country was already struggling with a currency crisis when the war began, but now its markets are shaken, fearing more damage to tourism, food imports, and construction and defense projects. This is why the outcome of the war is so important for Turkey, and why it has refused to sever its ties to either Russia or Ukraine. As a result, it has seized an opportunity and emerged as a key mediator, trying to recoup its credibility within the NATO alliance as well as with its neighbors. And for now, it appears as though its tightrope walk of diplomacy is paying off.